Hotep family. So today we're going to do lesson 14 of the course on African philosophy. This one is self-initiative. Every man is his own responsibility in life. Nature never made anyone dually but singly. Therefore, you have your single responsibility. My name is Onitaset Kumat. I am the author of the Book of Power and the Pro-Black Compendium. And this is the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. We're reading Marcus Garvey's Course on African Philosophy, also known as Message to the People, and it's ever so insightful for the conditions of Africans today. I'm going to repeat again, self-initiative. Every man is his own responsibility in life. You are your own responsibility in life. Nature never made anyone dually, but singly. Therefore, you have your single responsibility. The purpose of life is to live fully. Hence, the single life must be complete, and in fact, it is so with every man. Therefore, it is the duty of every man to fall back on himself for what he wants. Now, I want to contrast this. Now, this is actually pretty interesting because this is individualism. This is actually individualism, something that we tend to disagree with in the African cosmogony, if you will. Realistically speaking, man and woman are part of a whole. Okay, we're part of a whole. We're complements. So in a sense, we are made dually, in a vaster, more complicated sense. But I'm going to continue on to that. In essence, that, you know, realistically speaking, you don't really want to say that we're single in life, but we are, in a sense, responsible for ourselves. But more so, responsible to our communities. I want to say that. In Zubiri, now that's a really interesting book. In Zubiri, we handle this sort of nuance inside of almost a fictional setting, but it has this idea where can you be for self by not being about your community? Because at the end of the day, it's your community that takes care of you. You understand? And only in so much as you build that community, right, can you be taken care of in the future. Because anybody who reaches old age will eventually have to depend upon another soul, another person. And even if you want to fulfill your life by, let's say, reproducing, you cannot do that on your own. There are very few things you can do on your own. And because there are very few things you can do on your own, you need to have and build community and have and build nations. This way you can achieve grand things. So your single responsibility is actually toward that community goal. And as you know, in the books that I author, you can reach those community goals. You just have to work for it. Or you have to read. But come on, let's go. It is necessary for a man to use all of his faculties for his own protection. He always has a reserve of self-expression and action upon which to fall to protect and defend himself. Therefore, he must develop his faculties to do things thoroughly for himself. He must rely upon himself first for initiating all those things that may contribute to his personal well-being. Now, this is important. Now, I want you to understand this. If three men can beat up another man, more or less. I mean, obviously there are some, badass men, but let's say 5 men fight even a badass man. Chances are the 5 men will win. Now, obviously, there are some badass men. Don't get me mistaken. There's some dudes, probably take on 5 people. But eventually, you have to come to grips. And this is how I'm saying in an unarmed fight. In an armed fight, like 5 men, in an armed fight, pretty much win. Unless again, you have to be pretty damn good at with your arms. But the main point of it all is that being organized is key for your protection. You cannot individually protect yourself at all. I think there's a story like that in the Pro-Black Compendium. It was obviously on the African Blood Siblings website before then, but it's called The Fable of, I want to say, the Strongest Elephant. And it's this idea that there's this elephant that's just stronger than all the other elephants. All the other elephants, he's stronger. He's the strongest elephant. So he tells the other elephants, I'm going to get the most food. Forget this community. Who cares about this community? I'll eat more than the rest of you because I'm the strongest elephant, and you can't do anything about it. And so what the other elephants do is they leave. And then a lion cannot beat an elephant by itself. Can't kill an elephant by itself. However, a group of lions can. And a group of lions approaches this elephant, and the elephant says, I'm the strongest elephant in the world, but you can't do anything about it. And you can't do anything to me. I'm the strongest elephant. And the lion says, well, yeah, you might be, but the world is run by organizations, not by individuals. And of course they eat the lion. They eat the elephant. So, that's just something to bear in mind. Now, you have to understand, like, as an individual, as a leader, yes, you are an individual. You have to be charged with your protection, but understand that what your protection looks like is organization. You do, in a sense, rely on others, but you have to have, as we go back to the name of the title, self-initiative, and you can then protect yourself, because no one else is going to make that organization for you. That's what you have to understand. Or if somebody else does, it's because they have self-initiative. Whatever he wants to do should first come from himself, as he should know what is best for himself. Advice may be helpful, but only to the extent that you have reason and judgment enough to see the value of the advice. Otherwise, it may be harmful. Very few people, if any, who advise others do so completely honestly. Generally, they advise with a motive for which the individual must pay the price, whatever that price may be. Therefore, the best individual policy should be that the individual develop in himself or herself the courage to do things on his or her own account, always counting the cost and benefit or bad results. The person who fails to be true to himself and taking the initiative to do things for himself will ultimately find out that he or she has been a sucker for others. Always surround yourself with the talent of being able to do by yourself, so as not to be too dependent. A person who has to depend on others is not himself or herself, but the subject of others. A subject or a medium is apt to break under the influence of the controlling factor. As, for instance, a hypnotist who has a controlling factor may so hypnotize his subject as to cause the subject to lose his or her mind. Therefore, try to never be the subject mentally of a factor, because a factor may destroy your opportunity for self-reliance and self-initiative. You want to understand this, that other people are subjecting you and destroying your self-reliance and self-initiative. You have to have that self-reliance, self-initiative. You have to have that. And short of that, you will be another people's subject. You will be that sucker. Okay? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? What I understand is this. A lot of what's impeding you is national weakness. Impotence on a national level. What we need, what you need, is potency on a national level. And that's what I gather. All right? This can be done. This can be done. And with you being active, it will be done. Always maintain a strong will and emphasize that strong will even more. When from the first reasonable judgments you come to the conclusion that you are right. To come to the conclusion, you must have the facts before you in your mind. If your facts are as good as is known and can possibly be gathered on the particular thing on which a decision is to be based, then don't allow anyone but Amun to alter your will, because your will is your decision, and your decision is your intelligence, and your intelligence is your personality, and your personality is your self-confidence and your initiative. Always try to help yourself. Only when you are completely satisfied that you do not have the ability, knowledge, character, and strength to do for yourself should you call on anyone to help you. When you ask others to help you over anything, be sure that they are yours very, very, very good friends or relatives. Because if the thing you ask them to help you out of may be valuable to you and would be of value to others, they may take the value for themselves. And all that you will get for calling in someone else to do something for you that you should do for yourself is disappointment. You will have the sad experience of learning how bad man is to rob his fellows of their rights. Anything on earth that is of value to you is of interest to the other person. If you have a good idea, try to develop it yourself and master it yourself before you ask for help. For at best, you will have to at least share the results with those who help you. And this could also go into the racial thinking. Racial thinking in the sense of you want to rely upon your race first and foremost for your advancement. And if you do not, if you want to call on other people, they may call back in that favor. You want to ask favors of other people, they may call in that favor. So my observation is that if you're trying to be that race, if you're trying to be that powerful race, you need to come together on a body of literature. And there's no better body of literature to start with than the Book of Power. On that note, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to this ad I wrote, the song I wrote, and you'll see the lyrics to the right, and just take that while we are on this little break. All right. Okay, so I know books. All right, so let me tell you about a book. All right, check it. So the goal and objective is to be selective, elective for knowledge with the black directive, checking sources, heritage, and legacies. With the brilliance to defeat our nemesis, the Book of Power, so aptly named, esteemed and famed for informing the brain and doing the same as the ancestors before us. Sankofa, that's the life chorus. Wisdom is the key against dangers. Either hinder the leaders or lead the changes. We are doing Africa with no strangers. Do you hear us? Okay, hold on. We can't continue to read the second fiddle. African power is the end of the fiddle. Let's build a nation, the likes which never existed. The motto heretofore, we persisted. Better, we resisted. Best, we building. We'll raise the roof and break through the ceiling. Peeling away the change we were given to stop just surviving, start thriving and living. Africa's about to host superpowers. China and US back up in time hours. No one can be free without freeing themselves. But freedom is shown and owned on bookshelves. The Book of Power, a key for liberation. There's no domination where there's education, because ignorance is man's main weakness. All of exploiters, we don't teach this. Send the pages of sages, king and quick. Akapong, delay, Desaline, Nere, Garvey and Zinga and Cooks. 500 pages to pass most books. The task is told to bring up the confidence. You will hold the tone for the confident. Have some pride and push forward your chest. Your leaders are reading one of the best. The book of science covers violence, self-reliance, and does away with silence. The time has come for the work to get done and build up a land that is second to none. We'll organize, technologize, strategize a new Africa before our eyes, and blackness will be the complexion we see. Anytime we envision what it means to be free. So come join minds, read what is written. Here be solutions, no longer hidden. Nothing works in theory, all that works and works. So it's time to put ourselves first. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Book of Power. So the Book of Power can be purchased on Amazon. Just click on the link below. Alright, send me on tap. Tulele mahat, tushene is fat. Tulele mahat, tushene is fat. Tulele mahat, tushene is fat. Hotep. Fear Amon. No, I'll do the God word here. Fear God and no other fear. Okay. Actually, I don't want to do it. Ugh. This is what's interesting. The Eurasian puts up this Eurasian God, if you will, right? This Eurasian deity, and the whole basis of maintaining of this Eurasian deity's authority is fear. Like you have to understand that. Like the Eurasian's whole, like even his communities today are based off of this fear that you may have. So let's go on. There is a Eurasian deity. No man can say there is no Eurasian deity, because no man is like that deity. Man is limited in his intelligence. Alright, so I don't even know how to twist this out, to be honest. Man is limited in his intelligence at the most, and man knows how insufficient he is between life and death. That he is born without his knowledge and dies without his will or wish. when his birth and death must logically and naturally be controlled by somebody else. It could not be man, because man is always man, whether he be a big man or a small man. So power that gives birth and causes death must be greater than man's power. Whatever that power is, it must be an absolute power. Some men call it by different names, but they all mean the same thing, and it is a deity. Therefore, when man says there is no deity, he is a fool, for he is not as great as that. Join no one in saying there is no deity, and join no man in saying he is a deity, for it is blasphemy. Now, understand that. Saying he is, and that's what this quote unquote Christ figure says, that he is God, or he is a God. But let's go on. Fear a God, but love a God. If you love a God, you need not fear a God, for God is with you, and you are part of him in your goodness. You fear this deity only when you are conscious of being wicked and evil and wicked. You love this deity and work with this deity while you are good. There is nothing in this world that you should fear otherwise, for everything in the world is subject to you as man. Never fear man, but understand man, so as to escape the wrath of man and master man. Man is vicious, man is wicked, and you must know that he is. By knowing that he is wicked, you are able to handle him without fearing him. Meet the stare of man with your stare. Never cringe before the stare of man, otherwise he masters you. Develop enough courage. And this is something important to remember. Don't break eye contact. You're looking at somebody, look at them. This is how a lot of people test you subconsciously by your stare. Just FYI. Develop enough courage, character, boldness, and self-confidence to look any man in the face and hold your ground. The first time you take your eyes off him because of his stare, he conquers you because you are unprepared. Look him straight in the eye, keep him covered with your eye, and let him bow and walk off, not you. This is the way man conquers the lion or a wild beast, by staring it in his eyes. The moment he takes off his eyes, the beast will spring upon him. And that's something that in the animal world, you meet an animal with your eyes, and if you look away, they jump on you. But if you look at them, you stare at them, you say, hey, look, not me. You understand? You don't want this. And the animal say, you know what? Not worth it. Because, everybody makes a calculation. Everybody makes a calculation. Calculus is the name of life. If you see a car coming and it has the light, you don't have the light, you do your calculation and say, you know what, I could walk in front of it. Or you look at the driver and the driver notices you and you could walk in front of it. That's how it is in life. That's how it is in life. You conquer with your stare. The daring look of man conquers man. The self-confidence of man conquers man. The strong character of man conquers man. The conqueror is the fellow with the boldest and longest stare. He hypnotizes his victim and walks over him like a worm. Never be a worm. Try to never be obligated. For if you are obligated to a man, you cannot stare him to obedience. You will have to bow before him because he has a grip on you. Try then to be free from all obligations to any man, and thus always be yourself. Ammon is pleased when man lifts himself to his true position in his kingdom of earth and heaven. Look to Ammon, ask him for strength, ask him for courage and righteousness, and you will be able to battle in the world of men. Don't ask him for wealth, but ask him for wisdom, as Solomon did. Solomon's like another mythical person, but whatever. And he will open up to you the greater knowledge of goodness, if you are good in your approach to him through prayer for wisdom. If you ask Ammon for wisdom and understanding, you have everything else, because with wisdom and understanding you'll be able to take care of yourself. Therefore, never pray to Ammon for particular things, for individual things. He has already given all that is necessary for your existence and creation. He has placed you as Lord and Master over them. Then why worry him in further prayer for these things? It is a waste of time. It is annoying. It is disgusting to Ammon, if Ammon can be disgusted. Seek ye first wisdom and understanding, and all life will unfurl itself to you through Ammon. The mind and the soul are the receptacles of understanding and wisdom. Cleanse them with protection, and approach the source who hath giveth them, and you shall be eternally blessed. The angels of heaven are the good spirits from earth, and the other planets who have passed through this probation of original life. No man on earth is an angel. The angels are spirits, not men. So this was pretty interesting, because this kind of touches onto African spirituality, ancestral worship, the idea that people the idea that people become ancestors posthumously, and only if they were good. by an African standard, and what is good by an African standard? That is a fundamental question. The reality being that a lot of people who do die do not become ancestors. All right, that's lesson 14, and I hope to hear from you for lesson 15. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Shem Yem Hotep, Ptah Htp.